1875, Paris. In a field just outside the city limits, two French balloonists by the names of Joseph Croce Spinelli and Theodore Savelle proclaimed their desire to travel higher in a balloon than any man had traveled before. In their early tests to determine the dangers of high-altitude flight, the two men blindfolded a young mare they stole from a nearby farm, convinced him into the basket, and sent him aloft. The results prompted the two men to develop supplementary breathing apparatus. After a failed attempt with helium, they filled bladders with a mixture of air and oxygen to take on board their trusty aircraft, the Zenith. They also called upon the expertise of the world-famous balloonist, Gaston Tissandier. Perhaps his participation in the flight was solely out of goodwill, or perhaps it was his desire to be part of history. On April the 15th, at 25 minutes to 12 p.m., the three balloonists started to ascend in an east-northeasterly wind into a sky being blue but vaporous. After 1 o'clock, and the zenith being in equilibrium, a consultation took place. "I'm inhaling oxygen. The effect is excellent," said Spinelli. An hour previously, he had complained about a slight pain in his ears. "Shall we go higher?" he said to his companions. Tissandier, also having found some relief by breathing in oxygen, consulted the instruments and discharged an amount of ballast. With fog in the horizon, little rounded cirrus clouds, the balloon continued its upward ascent. Neither seemed to notice that Savelle, who had been sitting at the bottom of the basket, seemed somewhat oppressed. At 24,000 feet, the caged birds they had brought with them as an indicator of peril stopped chirping. Tissandier felt stupefied and frozen. He wished to put on his fur gloves, but the action of taking them from his pocket necessitated an effort that he could no longer make. He wished to take hold of the oxygen tube, but it was impossible for him to raise his arms. He closed his eyes and, sinking down, became insensible. "Wake up, Gaston! What should I do?" screamed Spinelli. He too had become confused. Should I throw out this ballast?" He thought no more of the perilous position or the danger, and along with several bags of ballast and some rugs, he threw over an 80-pound aspirator. Vertigo appeared at his very last moments. It immediately precedes annihilation. Sudden, unexpected, and irresistible. At 3:30, Gaston Tissandier, dreadfully giddy and oppressed, gradually came to, perhaps because he was more accustomed to the euphoric effects experienced at high altitudes, or perhaps it was his ever-relentless desire for fame. The zenith was descending with frightful speed and making great oscillations. His two companions were huddled up motionless in the car, covered by their cloaks. Their faces had turned black, and there was blood flowing from their mouth and nose. The wind had increased in strength. As Tissandier neared the earth, he knew his only hope was to cut the grapnel rope and drop the anchor. With astonishing coolness, he checked the instruments and searched the balloon for his knife. On emerging from beneath the balloon, Tissandier was seized with a feverish attack and a panic. He had been rendered deaf in the fall and could not hear any of the noise that surrounded him. For a moment, he sank down and thought he would join his friends in the next world, but again came to. He held the bodies of his companions and had them put under shelter in a nearby barn in the commune of André, 190 miles from Paris as the bird flies.